you get back, remind me that we need to put some gas in the chainsaw for tomorrow.
For these 7 young men, it's a night they'll both never forget and also struggle to remember. They've been working all day, chopping down the pine trees that cover these mountains. What they don't know is that their drive back to town will become a road trip like no other. One of these men will suddenly vanish in jaw-dropping circumstances, setting off one of the most gripping and bizarre missing person cases in history. Pretty soon, people all across the country and the world will be asking, what really happened to Travis Walton?
Travis, get back!
In the summer of 1975, Travis Walton is a member of a 7-man logging crew hired to thin out trees in the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. They're a tight-knit, hard-working group. Then, several months into the job, on November 5th, as they head back to town, everything in their world changes. As they drive along the rocky forest road that they've traveled countless times before, suddenly the men are stunned by a large, mysterious object floating in the sky.
What the hell is that?
While fear grips the rest of the crew, something inexplicably draws Travis Walton towards the light.
Travis, come back here! Travis! Travis, come back! Hey, Travis, come on back here, man! Travis!
Gripped with panic, his friends flee the scene.
Travis!
15 minutes later, when the light appears to be gone, they return to the site to find nothing. No craft, no light, no Travis. Their friend has vanished. So they race to the nearest phone to call the sheriff, Chuck Ellison.
Our friend's being taken.
Though he's skeptical, Sheriff Ellison accompanies the men back to the scene.
Travis, come back! Travis!
But after a search that drags late into the night, they're forced to call off the hunt as the temperature plummets. If Travis is out there somewhere, he's in for a brutally cold night. Over the next 5 days, the sheriff's office and volunteers frantically search the area. In an odd moment that would become relevant decades later, the logging foreman and others recall an investigator using a Geiger counter. When they test the men's hard hats, the needle jumps way up. But let's file that away for now, because this small logging crew is about to have their feet held to the fire. 3 days after Travis goes missing, the sheriff's department administers polygraph tests for the 6 loggers. The men deny any involvement in Travis's disappearance, and they all recount the same bright light in the sky. They pass with flying colors, but there's still no explanation for where Travis Walton could be. 5 days after Travis's disappearance, his brother-in-law receives a call.
Hello? Who is this?
It's Travis.
He's stumbled to a payphone on the outskirts of a small town about 10 miles from where he disappeared.
Travis, buddy, you're gonna be okay.
When they find him, all he remembers is waking up earlier that night, lying flat on the road, with a light above him that disappeared. But in the days to come, Travis would remember more and more. And what he remembers transforms this from a simple missing persons case to an out-of-this-world alien abduction nightmare, unlike anything anyone had heard before. When the word gets out to the public, newspapers all over the world run with the story, creating a feverish interest that will last decades. But doubters also come out of the woodwork. The loggers are accused of fabricating an elaborate hoax to get them off the hook from running behind schedule on their logging contract. Other skeptics write it off as ball lightning, a run-in with a military craft, drug-induced hallucinations, or simply a drunken prank. But Travis and the rest of the logging crew stand by their story, and none of the alternative theories can be proven. But if it all really happened, where is the evidence? Well, some of the best evidence is Travis himself. Blood tests taken soon after Travis's return come back completely clean for drugs and any intoxicants. Though he is dehydrated and a few pounds lighter, 5 nights of no food in the forest should have left his body much more malnourished.
You're gonna be okay.
And perhaps the most amazing thing is that Travis survived at all. At night, the forest can reach below freezing temperatures. Few could survive such an ordeal wearing just jeans and a flannel shirt. Another point in Travis's favor is that he, just like the other crew members, takes a polygraph test. He too passes. So at the very least, Travis believes his own story. And as days turn to weeks, months, years, and even decades, Travis's story always stays remarkably consistent, never changing or shifting like lies sometimes do. And Travis seemed genuinely honest that the event had affected him deeply when I sat down with him 40 years later.
For years, the memory was so clear that every time I recounted the events, that I would re-experience that level of fear. My heart and respiration would go way up, and I would just be drenched in sweat after describing what had happened at that time.
Well, thank you for letting us consider the facts. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it. The Travis Walton story has been a mystery for 50 years. It's not just Travis himself that makes his case compelling. His incident fits right in with Arizona's status as a well-known hotbed of UFO activity. On July 7, 1947, Phoenix amateur astronomer William Albert Rose captures 2 photographs of unidentified flying objects. April 3, 1952, above Marana Air Base near Tucson, a silvery disk is reported hovering. When jets scramble to intercept, the object disappears. And on March 13, 1997, thousands of people, including actor and amateur pilot Kurt Russell, report seeing a silent V-shaped, miles-long group of lights gliding over the night sky above Phoenix. The so-called Phoenix Lights is the greatest mass UFO sighting in American history, but it may not be a mystery for much longer. Thanks to an unexpected find at the original site, we may be able to reveal the remarkable truth of his story. In 2014, UFO researcher and former federal agent Ben Hansen returns to the clearing site of the original incident with Travis by his side to try and uncover any remaining evidence of the so-called UFO encounter. They located the exact spot of the supposed abduction, and, as it turned out, they found compelling new evidence that Hansen thinks could be the smoking gun.
I regard the Travis Walton incident as the most well-documented case of alleged UFO abduction in history. But a lot of people dismiss UFO cases because they say there's no video of it, there's no hard evidence. In my previous careers of law enforcement, investigation, you have to approach things very methodically, as if you're going to present this in court. So when I went back with Travis to the scene of the original 1975 incident, it was very important that we actually processed the scene like a crime scene. We quarantined an area boundary, we defined it, we mapped it out, we gridded it out. And that's when we discovered that the area that was surrounding where the craft was hovering had trees that seemed to have grown, like exponential growth compared to the other trees. And on one side of the tree, it's thicker, meaning those rings after 1975 were spaced further apart. But they also had an unusual quality about them. They were all pointing towards one specific point in the middle. No matter where those trees were, they were growing thicker and bigger facing the side where the craft was hovering. After the 1975 event, there were high levels of radiation that were documented over ground zero where the craft had been hovering. I started to research radiation, and I came across a couple of papers. Now, these academic papers were written after the Chernobyl incident in the Soviet Union. Now, when the leak and the radiation had spread, most people would assume any living organism within that radius is dead. But if you also remember, think about radiation and its ability to mutate. And what they found was there was a certain type of pine tree, and these trees were growing much, much quicker because there was residual radiation left at the scene. So I thought, this is compelling, because with the Travis Walton case, the side of the trees facing where the craft was is where the exponential growth and the wide tree rings were occurring. So is it possible that the propulsion system or this discharge or whatever the effects of this craft had then radiated the trees, but only on the side facing where the craft was, and for years to come, it caused this unusual growth? So now we have evidence that seems to support the idea that something quite unusual happened in the forest that night.
Will this remarkable new discovery silence the doubters and finally prove the most high-profile case of alien abduction in history? Studying the data, it certainly does seem to show something beyond our understanding happened. And it happened in the very same place and at the very same time as Travis's alleged alien attack. But was Travis Walton taken by extraterrestrials? His controversial story has perplexed the public for 50 years. And in all that time, Travis himself has never wavered from his account. Meanwhile, science has come a long way on the question of extraterrestrials. Experts now theorize there could be 40 billion Earth-sized planets in our galaxy alone. There is a growing consensus that it is not only possible, but likely, that alien life does exist. Our next file takes us from a tale of alien abduction to the story of a kidnapping at the hands of someone much more human and much more sinister. It's March 1st, 1932. In a New Jersey suburb, a man is putting his young son down to sleep for the night. But this is no ordinary father. He is world-renowned aviation pioneer and American hero, Charles Lindbergh. And the baby is his only son, Charlie Jr. What Lindbergh doesn't know is that soon his son will vanish into thin air. The tragic tale of the Lindbergh baby kidnapping captivated and confounded the nation. And now, nearly a century later, new analysis of evidence is revealing overlooked suspects with darkly disturbing motives who may have gotten away with murder. On an icy, stormy evening, an intruder slips through the window of Charlie Jr.'s second-floor nursery. And just like that, the boy is gone. When Charles and Ann Lindbergh discover their son is missing, they're terrified. They call the New Jersey State Police. When detectives arrive, they find an envelope with a ransom note inside. The kidnapper wants $50,000 for the safe return of Charlie Jr. They also find muddy footprints, but there's no blood and no fingerprints. Investigators also discover a ladder with a broken rung, suggesting the kidnapper snapped it while climbing up or down. When the press catches wind of the kidnapping, it sets off an international firestorm.
Not a single bet is overlooked in the search for the most famous baby in the world.
Because Charles Lindbergh is a living legend. In 1927, Lindbergh becomes the first aviator to fly non-stop from New York to Paris across the Atlantic Ocean. After he lands, he becomes the most famous man on the planet. And with so much fame comes incredible fortune. Lindy becomes one of the wealthiest celebrities in the world, making the Lindbergh family a target. Stealing Charles Lindbergh's son is an audacious crime, and police have little to go on. They launch a nationwide manhunt to locate the kidnapper and return Charlie Jr. home safely.